We're going to try this one more time. I need to make sure I'm the right color. Okay, there we go. Let's see if we can do a video today. That would be nice. All right, there we go. That's what I need to do. All righty then. Whew. All right. Now I can talk. I'm really sorry this morning, y'all. It's been a little bit of a crazy morning. I had to get the rental car and I got to hurry up in here and grab my bag and pick my cotton. But I decided I want to be green today. I want to be green today because second time, no, Sister Kathy, this is like the third or fourth time I went live this morning. And so, yeah, I'm green with envy of the love and peace that other nations have that we just can't seem to get a hold of. So before I get started, I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there because I have a lot of friends I know who are comedians. And yes, I have a massive growth zit on the side of my head. Yes, it's right there. It's big, nasty. You just got to put it out there. And so I'm going to leave it right there because if somebody come in here and start talking about me, it looks so weird. It looks like a unicorn coming out the side of my head right now. But if somebody start talking mess today, I'm going to walk up on the side of you and I'll be like, Pah! I'm going to pop it right there. But all right, let me stop. All right. Just got to be honest. That just looks so, it looks like something's climbing out the tree. All right. I'm going to get serious. Let me get serious for a little bit. All right. But that's what you had to do when you got on the bus in the morning. You know, the kids would start talking bad about you and you had to go ahead and you put it out there and you joke about yourself first. And that was a great form of protection. All right. So today I want to be green. I want to be green. I want to try to get serious here for a minute because I want to talk about something serious. I finished up the video yesterday with Sister Claudia. Amazing human being. And I woke up this morning. Well, I went to sleep last night, had some thoughts, woke up this morning. I was sitting here and I was thinking about it. I said, you know, one of the things that James Fallon, and that was the neuroscience scientist who did the studies into the warrior gene and epigenetics and that relationship that I was talking about yesterday. And one of the things that he talked about was there are times when our DNA does these epigenetics flips based on environmental conditions temporarily, right? So we can go on and off warrior when we need to. And of course, it's just a genetic adaptation. And thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. I think that outside of my little weird humor, I think that this message is important. I think it's important in bringing down, you know, some of the violence that's happening now, because we're in full ongoing ignorance, and it's coming from every side, right? And you know, from my perspective and where I sit, all lives matter, man. And it's I cheer all of them. You know, you might tend to hear me say white lives matter a lot. Why? Because you got enough black people saying, or people who look black, and I ain't black, I'm green. You got enough of them saying that. And I think the more that I say that, the more other people will say Black Lives Matter. And maybe we can bring down this nonsense and quell the extremists and let, you know, reason and love kind of reign. And hopefully we can get to a point where we just don't have to say any life matters. But anyway, on that topic, so one thing he talked about is it's not just age 1 through 3 where these warrior genetics get turned on. Your warrior genetics, they can get turned on all throughout your life. It's all about stimulus. If you are a woman being abused, you know, that gene can get turned on temporarily, and you will do some stuff that you never thought you could do because you have to. And so what if, just go along with me for a moment, what if all of these children in these impoverished communities are having their warrior genetics turned on. And these kids don't have empathy and they don't have fear. And this is why they have the increasing aggression. And they don't know why. One of the things that James Fallon was talking about, he said that asking, these children to follow the laws, or asking someone who's had those war genetics flipped early on, is like to ask them to follow the laws is like asking a blind man what light looks like. Think about that. So, and his point was, these people can't even fathom what you're talking about. They can't even fathom that you're not supposed to hurt someone if they hurt you. You're not supposed to kill them if they smack you. Like, it's just not even, a realm of possibility for them. And so just imagine that we have generations of children coming up from trailer parks and ranches and ghettos whose warrior genes have flipped and they're interfacing with the police. What do you think is going to happen to the police if they're going in these neighborhoods day after day and guns are being drawn on them? They're tackling people, they're fighting with people, they're going on the ranches with like brothers Lavoy Finnecom and those guys, and their threats are going back and forth. What do you think's going to happen to the police? You think their warrior genetics are going to get flipped? Like, have you ever watched some of these police videos and sat there and wondered, how in the hell can a human being do that? Like, they beat the hell out of the guy and then they shot the guy. And it makes perfect sense though. Like, I know the first thing out of your head is, oh, racism. And of course I'm a green dude saying this, so I can say this. But what if it's not? What if it's just our genetics? What if it's just warrior genetics and the team mentality? Like there's a study that was done in the UK I was listening to this morning, and what they did is they took team players. They took a bunch of people who didn't know each other and they put them on a team and they did team building things with them. And their bodies started to release certain chemicals. They tested in their blood that were, I have to go back and I'll post it so you can get the actual names of the chemicals, you guys that are real deep there. But they actually released these chemicals that were for relationship and empathy. And so this was like team building. And then they put them in competition with another team. And of course, then the I think it was testosterone and a couple other chemicals were coming out. But what they were showing is how training with a group makes you associate with that group, so that when you're pitted against another group, you just respond. You don't think, you just respond in defense of your group. And it's a part of human genetics and evolution and how all this stuff works in relationship with the warrior gene. So just imagine when you see that police officer do what he does, what if he's not a bad cop? What if that wasn't a bad kid? What if we live in a society where we have legislators who are writing laws that are increasingly creating an exponentially, increasingly violent society? What if they make money from destabilization? What if the police are really our brothers and our sisters and they're human beings and they're locked in this ignorance too? James was talking about slavery, and he said there's a genetic aspect to the warrior gene and it being handed down through epigenetics also. And I don't want to say genes with an S, and that it can be handed down multi-generations. There were studies done on Holocaust victims or children of the Holocaust, and they were actually showing that the kids were having dreams of what the parents experienced in some of the horrors, and that these things are being handed down through epigenetics. And he poses a really great question. He says, well, what about slavery? What do you think that did? And it's not just slavery, but what about all the other conditions that are being handed down? Those kids who grew up during those violent times and Western times and all of this stuff that's being handed down. But I think the thing that I'm just posing this morning is consider that we live in a society that thrives, that has legislation that thrives on violence by utilizing, intentionally or not, these 15 or so genes classified as the warrior genetics. And we pass it down generation to generation, making a more violent society. And my approach always is why I'm green this morning, is that if we focus on the side effects, if we focus on how things look, we don't get any solutions. We get nowhere, which is probably why in 200, 300 years, we've gotten nowhere, basically. And so I'm just asking you folks, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yes. Okay. So, we understand the racial aspect. Like we said before, they picked up people from Africa because they didn't look like the Irish. So when they ran off the plantation, it was easier to catch them because they looked different. I got that. But I'm saying we're a bit beyond that now, because the legislation that's in place, it's turning police's warrior genes on, whether temporary or long term. And that might be to explain why the few bad cops that you see aren't actually bad cops. And I pose this question: what if PTSD doesn't exist? When you look at troop suicides, 22 a day, it's probably higher than that now. But what if PTSD doesn't actually exist? What if we're sending these kids over there, 17, 18, 19, 20, even older, and we're flipping their warrior genes on, and they're coming back warriors, the warriors they're supposed to be? And what if that's all it is? But they come up with these names and these things that, we don't understand it and we just need to apply some money to it. What if it's just, you're not supposed to send someone to go kill other people for oil? What if we're not really designed to be violent? And so, and I don't know, and I don't have any answers on any of this. I'm just kind of sharing some of the research that I've been listening to, but maybe if what we've been doing and what we've been saying is getting us nowhere, maybe it will always get us nowhere, and maybe we need to fall back on neuroscience and professionals and the scientists and let them tell us what type of law should be in place. Maybe I shouldn't be the one to dictate to my neighbor what kind of laws should be over their life. Maybe my legislator shouldn't do that. Maybe Wall Street shouldn't do that. Maybe we should let professionals make the professional decisions that dictate the course of humanity, right? The course of this world. Maybe profit isn't a good thing to write laws. So the warrior gene, Brother Harry, to my understanding, is when you turn it on, it's either permanent or it's temporary. And in that ages 1 to 3, when they get flipped on from chemicals or parents not being there or parents yelling, violent situation, it gets flipped. These genes get flipped on because we're in tumultuous times, and it's a genetic adaptation to violent times to create violent citizens, violent human beings, because those tribes need to fight, and they can't have fear, and they're supposed to have the aggression that these kids show these teachers and the police officers. And so when it gets flipped 1 to 3, what he's saying is that a lot of it's permanent. Like, it's flipped on at very, very young ages. You can't turn it off, or we don't know how yet. Later in life, it gets flipped back and forth. And so you go into a warlike condition, or you're in a violent, abusive situation, those genetics get flipped on for temporary, points in time, and then they can flip back off. And it's your body. None of this is random. And I think that's the most important thing, that we have to bring in the holistic, naturalistic side to it with the neuroscience. None of this is random. Your body's responding to the stimulus in the environments we live. And if we've got ignorant legislators, because we got ignorant voters who are putting ignorant legislators in place, writing these laws, creating a violent society, then we're going to be flipping those genes. And the violence isn't going to just disappear, and it's not going to just subside. We're not going to have a march and scream that we think we know what the problem is. But these are things that only neuroscientists can answer, and only they can address. And yes, Brother Jimmy, can you create a mass murderer? According to his studies, yes, you absolutely positively can. Now, the crazy part about his story, though, is if you pay attention, again, his name is James Fallon. You can find his lectures all over YouTube, all over the internet. You can make, the name of his book is The Psychopath Inside. And what it talks about is how after we figured out you could actually look at a brain scan and determine who has these genetics based on the activity in the brain. And I hope I'm saying that right. But it's a brain scan. They gave him a whole series of scans because he was scanning inmates, and he was realizing like all the inmates had warrior genetics turned on. Well, of course, why? You put somebody in prison for stock, taxi, whatever, peaceful, smoking some marijuana or whatever, and you flip the warrior genetics on. And so all these inmates have these things turned on, and then you release them back out in society. You know what's going to happen. You have an increasingly violent society, but you can make a psychopath. The interesting part about his story was that he has the genetics. He has the warrior genetics, but he's not necessarily a psychopath. He has some of the side effects, like I guess he's narcissistic and other things. And apparently, kind of the funny part of the story is once he realized that he actually had the encoding to be a psychopath, his family said, "Oh, we knew." We knew a long time ago. And so it was deep. It was deep. But that's what I wanted to pose and just kind of put out there this morning. I didn't want to do a long one. It's been kind of a crazy morning. But we know that we can make a psychopath. And maybe it's a good idea that we don't. Maybe it's a good idea that we stop. Maybe it's a good idea that we stop throwing darts in the direction of the police, and we stop throwing darts in the direction of kids raised in those environments, and we let science, intellect, and very smart people answer these questions and try to fix our society. Right? Because you know where this is all going to end. If we keep going down this route, increasing violence, letting the most ignorant people we can come up with have the microphone, we don't get to make it, right? Like this might be it. So, not gonna rant this morning. I really didn't want to get on because I spent a long time on last night. I had that thought, and I was just like, man, like this is really crazy. It's not just speculation, but the police, the FBI, Homeland Security, these kids in these neighborhoods, they're all suffering. Our military troops coming home, they're all suffering from this same thing. They're conditioned to be violent. They display the violence. They're handled by other people who then become violent also because they're handling those people. And if we don't let the professionals deal with these situations and walk the legislators into what laws should be in place and what laws should not be, because most of us accept and know that the vast majority of these laws, not only are they unconstitutional, they are human rights violating, they are civil rights violating, and these laws should not even exist. We have them because corporations handed them to the politicians and they put them in place. And because we get trapped in identity politics, we vote for these morons and they keep pushing the laws further and further out. And so I'm going to leave it on that. And I'm going to say something unpopular, and I'm a duck and I'm a high. But I'm green, man. I can say this, man. I'm green. I'm green this morning. I can say this. So the word's coming out that Bernie's going to run in 2020. And the only thing that I ask you to consider is this. I really ask you to think about this. Are our problems so bad that a president can't pull us out? Are they so bad that a president can't actually make it any worse? Are our problems so bad that a president has nothing to do with any of this and can't do anything for us? Are things so bad that we have to replace the entire government from top to bottom in a peaceful way, mind you? But are things so bad that these children can't suffer another Democrat or Republican in office and a Democrat and Republican Congress and Senate? Think about it. Just think about it. I know you love Bernie. I know you love Trump. It's bigger than them. Our problems, in my perspective, are significantly deeper than them in any love or hurt or hate or whatever you have for any of these identities. We need professionals in that conversation. I'm not a professional. The neuroscientists are the ones who know what they're talking about. We actually need to trust the science, and we need to sync those two up and demand our government listen to what our genetics are saying. That's my word for the day. Y'all have a good day. Assuming I can cut this off, and I'm going to duck and get out of here before y'all start. He said something about Bernie. He said something about to vote for Trump. I can't even turn the thing off. This is crazy, man. It's not easy being green.